crazy hair today. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Knitting Pickle Podcast, take 2. My name is Laura and you can find me here on YouTube, Instagram and Ravelry as Penrose Knits. I am a knitter and aspiring knitwear designer based in the Midlands in the UK, and I make knitting podcasts, knitting vlogs, general knitting content, all as a way of sharing and learning as I embark on what I hope one day to be a career in knitwear design. I started knitting about 3 years ago, and in the last year I've been dipping my toe into designing, but this year I'm wholeheartedly focusing on the knitwear design side of things, though I am still knitting patterns by people, a few of which you'll see today, but I'm also going to talk to you about a few designs that I've got on the go at the moment. If you are a golden oldie, then welcome back. Thank you for waiting so patiently for this episode. I actually filmed this episode 2 weeks ago, but I forgot to plug my microphone in properly. I have checked like a million times this time, but basically I couldn't use the footage from last time, and it actually worked out in the end because I wasn't happy with the episode anyway. All my projects were at a very similar point and it felt very rambly and my head just wasn't in it. So I think the universe was telling me to try again in a few weeks' time, and that also meant that the day after I decided to make a video all about everything I knit for myself last year, which wasn't something I was planning to do, but I'm really glad I did because I really enjoyed it and it's actually brought quite a few new people to my channel. So if you are a new viewer or you have recently joined me, then hello and welcome to the family. I'm going to be doing my normal content today, which of course is a podcast. I'm going to be showing you my whips, some finished objects, and chatting about some... See, I've already lost my train of thought. I will also be doing some chat at the end about some new releases and some new podcasts that I found for you. I completely forgot in the last episode to share any of the creators with you. I was a little bit out of practice. It was my first one since Vlogmas. So hopefully things will be a little bit more rounded this time. I've made some quite thorough notes to keep me on track, and I've also told myself to slow down, be calm, take my time and just relax into it. Before we get into the knitting, there is something that I want to address before I go any further in this video. I have ummed and ahed about whether to film today. And I guess, well, everyone will know why. And that's because of the state that the world is in at the moment. Obviously, we all know about the horror that's going on in Ukraine at the moment. And I mean, it's not even just that. There's so much going on all over the world at the moment that is just wrong. And everyone is in this kind of strange, like, place where no one really knows what to do at the moment. Obviously there's plenty that everyone can do, and the first thing is to make sure your information is coming from a good source. I am not an official source of information, but it's really easy to find out how you can help the people of Ukraine at the moment, just by doing a quick Google, looking in your local groups. My village is doing a collection this afternoon actually for things that for supplies for refugees, so that's a great way that you can help. Obviously donating money to charities that are out there helping, but just be careful of where you're donating to and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty that you can be doing, but because of what is going on in the world at the moment, sitting down and talking about knitting just felt really weird and trivial, and I think part of it, I was worried it would feel disrespectful as well. Like, how can I sit here talking about this stuff when there are people going through like horror at the moment? But after thinking about it for a week or two, well, not a week or two, it's not been going on that long, but thinking about it for the past week and talking to some people about it, I decided in the end that me making a podcast or not, it's not going to change the world. But it might bring a little bit of comfort to anyone who needs to escape for an hour. And even then, that still feels a bit wrong because there are millions of people who can't escape anything at the moment, and it's heartbreaking. But I also need to look after myself, and I've been struggling with it mentally for sure, and sitting and talking about knitting for an hour is going to also give me a little mental break from everything that's going on in my head, because even knitting at the moment, it's difficult to not let your mind wander, or your phone beeps with a new update, or something comes on the telly. So my aim with this podcast today is to give anybody who needs an hour's break a little something to watch and to just enjoy for a little while. I hope I've explained that right. Like, it's a really difficult one, and yeah. So let's get on with it, okay? I will start with finished objects, and I have a few for you today. The first is the one that I am wearing. Oh, flick me hair back. This is the first sweater by lovely Lizzie of Hive Knits, and this is her very first pattern, hence why it was called the first sweater. And I had the pleasure of test knitting this last year. Now, I actually finished this quite a while ago now, but I finished it just after I posted episode 14, and then it was 3 or 4 weeks until I tried to film again, and then another 2 weeks on top of that because of the sound issues. So I've actually had this for about a month now, but it is a new whip in the context of the podcast. It is a top-down raglan, which features a fisherman's rib sleeve and a stockinette body. I'm not going to be able to show it you very well sat here, so I will do some cutaways for you standing up. But yeah, basically it's done, and I'm so happy with it. It was a little out of my comfort zone for me colour-wise. I don't normally gravitate towards blue, and I'm not sure why I gravitated towards blue this time, but I did, and this is where we are. And I have been having to teach myself how to wear this colour, I think. I have sensory processing disorder, which means I struggle with sound, light, colour, touch, all that stuff. And wearing bright colours or like just certain types of colour can make me feel quite uncomfortable, and I don't feel myself. It makes me feel a bit on edge, and blue can do that for me. However, I think because this blue is in that darker, slightly more neutral, warmer zone, it's not bright, it's not baby blue, it's like a warm blue, I'm finding it much easier to wear than I thought I would. And I'm glad, because the pattern itself and the fit and the design of the garment is so gorgeous. I don't want to not let myself wear it because of the colour. It's like a slightly cropped length, and it's just a really beautiful fit. I was talking to Lizzie about this the other day actually, and my first sweater fits quite differently to a lot of other people's. A lot of people's have really big baggy sleeves. If you go and watch This Nanny Knits, lovely Lucy, she also did this test knit, and I saw her at Unravel recently, and she was wearing hers, and her sleeves are much bigger than mine. And I came to the conclusion with Lizzie that that's because I had to stretch mine down quite far to get the length in the sleeve, because I've got quite long arms, which meant the material hasn't like bagged out. But half fisherman's rib grows lengthwise and widthwise with time, so I imagine this is probably going to change a lot over time. Also, I need to put some elastic in my neckline. Now, this is something that Lizzie talks about in the pattern. It's totally expected. I've got the same thing with one of my patterns, when the neckline can get a little bit wide because of the construction or because of the stitch, I can't quite remember. But especially with mine, because I keep pulling my sleeves down, because I could do with a little bit more length in the sleeve. Sorry, am I in focus? I hope so. I've widened my neckline even more because I keep pulling it down. So my plan is to put some elastic in the neckline. It's a folded neckband, so all you have to do is literally thread it through the inside of the neckband, tie it in a knot, go in one hole, come out the same hole you went in, tie it in a knot, and it's done. So simple, but it will just bring that neckline in a little bit. However, in my quest to get more comfortable wearing different colours, it was suggested to me that I wear something between my face and the colour to break it up so it doesn't feel quite so jarring to me. Now, that could be a shawl, it could be a cowl, it could be like a little bandana, or just like a silk scarf or something. So with that in mind, I thought, okay, well, I've got this lovely little cream ruffled top with a slightly higher neck. I'll put it underneath and see how I feel. And I definitely feel good about it. I feel like having this like little bit that kind of helps transition the colour towards my skin tone definitely makes it feel a little bit less jarring for me. And because of that, I'm not sure that I will put the elastic back in the neckline, because I like that it's slightly wider and leave space for a polo neck or a collar. I could wear it with a shirt underneath. I feel a bit funny about shirts because I don't really wear shirts that often. I do always feel quite formal in them and not very casual, and my life is never formal. I don't work in an office. So it can feel a little strange for me to wear collars, but I'm on the search for some maybe more kind of like fun collars, like rounded collars, Peter Pan collars, not like straight shirt collars, so that I can bring a little bit more fun to it. So I don't quite know yet if I'm going to change the neckline or not, but if you're a little bit like, that neckline's a bit wide for me, there are instructions on how to make it a little bit tighter. So that is my first sweater by Lizzie Hester. I made this in 1 strand of Varvetta and 1 strand of Drops Kid Silk, and I knit mine on 3.5mm needles, but the patterns are just 4mm needles, but obviously everyone's gauge is different. And as for everything else that I talk about, all the information will be in the description box below. So that's what I'm wearing, and that's my first official whip. That's my first official finished object. Oh my god. It's gonna be a long one. So my next finished objects, I've got 2 finished projects, but they're kind of in the same category, and that is some socks. I kind of go through phases with socks. Times where I don't want to knit on them at all, times where I do like 2 pairs in 2 weeks. But I thought I would share with you what I have done sock-wise recently. In my last episode, I showed you that my dear friend Anna got me a skein of sock yarn from Bird Street Yarns, Mr. B Yarns, I think, of a variegated sock yarn, and I've knit it up since I showed it to you. And here we are. It's supposed to be focusing on my face, so we'll see how this works. I need to put my face behind it. There you go. This colourway is called You Do Something To Me, and it's this gorgeous blue with little flecks of pink and orange and white, and I chose this hot pink, which is Arvetta, to bring out these little pops of pink in there too. I decided that I wanted to do just a vanilla sock with this because I really wanted the yarn to show. Now, even though I'm not usually that comfortable wearing colour on my body, I'm totally fine with it in socks, and I'm not a hand-dyed variegated yarn in clothing person either, but again, I love it in socks. I think it's a really nice way to enjoy that type of yarn even if you don't like wearing it, because I also really enjoy knitting with hand-dyed variegated yarn because it's just really interesting to watch the little pops of colour come up. It's just, yeah, it's really fun. So thank you to Anna for that lovely birthday present, and I'm so pleased with how the socks turned out. But to also make it a little bit more fun, I decided to first of all hide behind the sock. I added a little, you can't really see it, but there's like a little row of bobbles along the cuff, and of course this lovely little ruffle. If you have been watching my content for a while, focus. If you've been watching my content for a while, you will know that I am a fan of a ruffle, and you're going to see a little bit more of that later on. But I've only got one here because I can't find the other one. I think it's in my washing pile somewhere. But yes, this is my first sock. It's just a vanilla sock. I think I did 64 stitches on, I did these in Magic Loop, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I think I either need to go down a needle size for my socks or go down a few stitches because they are a little bit baggy, but I don't mind that because I only really wear them around the house anyway. And my second pair of socks is another one. It's like a self-draft sock, and I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to write this pattern up yet or not, because even though it's a pretty simple sock, there are some fun features to it. So I may or may not write this up. We'll see if the mood takes me. But this is my next sock. It hasn't got a name. It's got a few ideas, but isn't it fun? This is a hide behind the sock again. Hide behind the sock, Laura. Bloop. This is a 3x1 ribbed sock, and you can see we have some colour blocking going on here. We've got white. I mean, why am I telling you that this is white, pink and brown? I'm pretty sure you know that this is white, pink and brown. But this is the Sisu by Sandnes Garn. I put in a little order with Knit Yarns recently, and in there was a few skeins of this brand new sock yarn to knit.co.uk from Simona, the lovely owner and my friend. So I will tell you, this is officially ad gifted. I've not been asked at all by Simona to talk about it or promote it. She actually feels quite awkward about that kind of thing, but I'm going to do it anyway because she is my friend and I love her small yarn business, and she is my main enabler when it comes to yarn. So this is a new, it's not a new sock yarn, but it's new to knit.co.uk. It's the Sisu by Sandnes Garn. It is a super wash, 80% wool, 20% nylon, and I am very, very pleased with this yarn. Now, again, if you've watched me for a while, you know that I've got an ongoing love affair with FOLLY Arvetta, the FOLLY sock yarn. I love it. It's brilliant. I use it all the time. It's my favourite sock yarn. I don't just use it for socks. I used it for this. It's great. But it's always nice to try something different, and I think the main difference between Sisu and Arvetta is that this has got a bit more of a fuzz to it. It's a little drier in its feel. Arvetta is very smooth, very superwash, like that typical type of yarn, whereas this has just a tiny little bit more grit to it, which is really nice because you get quite a nice little kind of fluff to the sock. I don't think I'm going to capture the fluff here, but I just think it's a really, pardon me, I just think it's a really nice yarn. So when I was looking at all the colours, I wasn't really sure what to do with them. Like, I was like, do I have enough of each colour, of the single colour, to make a whole pair of socks? I don't really know. I don't want to be stressed out about running out of yarn. I just want a really simple pair of socks that are a bit of fun. So I decided to go colour blocking. I did these top down and with a heel, flap and turn, and I decided to just, you know, have a little bit of fun with colour and choose my favourite 3 colours, which happen to be like Neapolitan ice cream vibes, which I don't think is ever a bad thing. And I did a special little thing to make sure that the lines of the colour when they changed were nice and sharp. I'll hold it up for you. Now, quite often, it's not a problem on the knit stitches, but on the purl stitches, if you're changing colour on a purl stitch, you will get the purl bump in one colour and the legs of the stitch beneath it in another colour. When I changed colour, I did a round of just knit stitches, no purls, and then I continued my knit purl pattern, and what that does is it stops that little bump in colour happening and you get this really sharp colour change, which I think makes them look like almost commercial. Like, I feel like you could buy this in a shop, not to toot my own horn. But yeah, I don't know whether I'll write this up or not yet, because it is just another ribbed sock and it's hard to know if that's what is wanted from people. So, I mean, let me know in the comments, would you be willing to pay for another ribbed sock pattern, or are you like, meh, nah, seen it, done it? I think if I did do it, it would cover sizes from toddler to adult large, so you're definitely getting a decent amount of pattern for your money. And whilst we're on that subject, just thought I'd show you, I made a teeny tiny one for Penny. Now there is only one, and Penny is my daughter, she is 2.5. I have only made one because the fit on this isn't quite right. I got a bit impatient and the length isn't quite long enough for P. Though I haven't tried it on her since I washed it and blocked it, so it might be all right now. But yeah, I basically just did a little teeny tiny matching one with the leftovers from mine, and it was so fun. The difference with these socks compared to the vanilla ones is that I used a different method. If you have seen my Unravel vlog, you will know that I bought some Addy sock wonders on the recommendation from dear Jonathan Day, and I don't know why I said it in that accent. He was using them when I was at Ravel on a sock, and I had a little go, and basically the short circumference sock needles, but one needle tip is short and one needle tip is long. I don't get on with the ones that have got 2 short needles. They really hurt my hands, and I'm not willing to knit through pain in order to learn a new technique. But the one with the longer needle worked for me so well, and whilst we were walking around in Ravel, we spotted some on a stall, but they didn't have them in the sock size. They had them in 4mm. So I bought them in 4mm so that I could use them for sleeves, which I did in a project you'll see in a minute. And then when I got home, I ordered some in 2.5mm online so I could use them for socks. And I used them for these socks, and I bloody loved it. And I basically knit this whole sock in 12 hours within a 24-hour period. I cast it on just before I had a knit night with my friends and knit on it from like 7 in the evening till about, let's be honest, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the next day I finished it. It was so quick. Now, I'm getting distracted by whether I'm in focus or not. Come on now. I'm totally fine with Magic Loop. I like Magic Loop. It's mindless for me. I didn't feel like the changing of the needle slowed me down because I do it without even thinking about it. But it would appear that Magic Loop is definitely slower than small circulars. Now, I wouldn't ever recommend like forcing yourself to learn with small circulars if they don't feel right for you. Stick to what feels right. But if you do get on with them, oh my gosh, they're a game changer. They speed things up so much. So yeah, definitely recommend the Addy Sock Wonder needles. Thank you very much for influencing me, Jonathan. Anyway, so we'll move on from the socks because we've had 2 socks now and I know they're not everybody's cup of tea. I'm going to go back to another garment, which will be my final finished object. My camera is about to tell me that it's had 30 minutes of filming, so I need to turn it off. 1 sec. Back in the room. So the next project I'm going to share with you is, it's a small one. I have recently been working on 2 patterns of the same name called the Souffle. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the adult souffles in a minute. I'm going to give you a little update on the progress of those patterns. But I decided to make a little miniature one for my daughter, and it has been called the Petit Soufflé, as you would expect. I'm not French. The patterns won't be in French just yet, though I am talking to someone about translating them into French because it only feels appropriate. But this is the Petit Soufflé. Isn't it just adorable? I knew instantly that I wanted to make one for P, and I think even though the adult one doesn't necessarily read like childish at all, when it's in its tiny form, it's just so adorable. So the original souffle is in mohair, and it has a sheer panel at the top and a solid panel at the bottom, but obviously I didn't think that was overly appropriate for a child, and putting kids in mohair is probably not the best idea, but I still wanted to have that kind of fluffy, poofy, floaty souffle vibe. So I made this with Lana Gatto Alpaca 70, which is 70% alpaca, 30% wool, and I can't remember the shade of this, but I also need to tell you that this was also gifted from Simona. She has this habit of putting little bonuses in the packages that I order from her, and this was one of those little bonuses. And I was struggling to find something to make with this yarn. I made the Knitting for Olive Bear Balaclava for Penny, but it was far too small. But I'm eagerly waiting to find out the gender of my friend's baby, and if it's a girl, I'm just going to gift that to her because it will be so cute. But with what I had left, I decided to use it for the souffle, and I'm so glad I did because it is a gorgeous yarn. I was so unsure of it when I was knitting with it because, kind of like merino, before you wash it, it can look very uneven, the stitches can look different, it can look a bit clunky and odd, but when you block it, the drape appears. And that's what you get from alpaca. If you have not knit with alpaca before, or you don't really know about the qualities of alpaca, basically the staple, I was trying to remember that word the other day, the length of the fibre you get from the animal is quite long from an alpaca, and from sheep it's quite short. So that long staple length of the fibre makes it drapey and floaty, as you would imagine. Like if you've got something that's long, you're going to wiggle it more. If you've got something short, there's going to be less wiggle. So yeah, it's But so if it was pure alpaca, it might be a little too drapey, but that 30% wool in there gives it a little bit of stability. As far as I'm aware, this is not superwash, so not necessarily the best for a child's garment, but honestly, I've hand washed this twice now, and because it's those natural fibres, the dirt just like repels from it anyway. Penny was playing with Play-Doh yesterday in this. She got it on, and I was just able to like pick it off again. And like liquids and stuff, if you get there straight away, you can usually like blot them away. I take it off her when she eats. But other than that, she's quite happy to be in it, and I will put a little bit of footage of her in it. I took some pictures at the park the other day, and I think I got a video of her running around, which is so cute. But it really, really suits her, and I love wearing my one and hers. I love wearing my one at the same time she wears hers. It's kind of like twinning, but like not too much, because they're quite different vibes. So yes, that is the Petit Soufflé. My plan is to write this up in sizes 1 to 10. And I don't know when that's going to happen, in all honesty, because I'm still focusing on the adult patterns for now and some other designs that I'm working on. But I think once I get the 2 adult soufflés signed off, then I know I can fully put my brain into this one. I realised that when I'm designing, I can only really keep one set of numbers in my head at a time. So because the adult soufflés are graded for 10 sizes, that's a lot of numbers to keep on track of. And whilst I'm still in the editing and testing process, if I start writing out other patterns, then those numbers all get confused in my head and I lose track, and it makes the whole process a lot more difficult and a lot longer. So when I get the tick from my editor for the chunky soufflé, which is in its final rounds now, and I think the mohair soufflé is going to have to go back to the editor, which I'll talk about in a minute. Once all those numbers are signed off, I'm going to try and write this up, and it shouldn't be too long because, as I said, it's child sizes. So I think there will be 5 to 6 sizes ranging from 1 to 10. So yeah, I hope you like it. I'm very pleased with it, and I put Penny in it as much as I can. So whilst we're on the subject of the soufflés, I thought I'd give you a little quick update, and just as a reminder, here is the original soufflé. It is knit in Lang lace, which is a, God, what the percentage is it 50-50? I think it's 50-50 silk mohair. Basically a really high silk content, which gives it just, it's just stunning. But I'm not going to show it you for too long, and I'll probably put a picture in because that might be a little bit easier for you to see, or a cutaway. But the soufflé is currently in testing. I think we are at least halfway through the test now for the smaller sizes, a little bit longer for the larger sizes, and my testers have done an incredible job. Honestly, even though of all the test knits I've hosted so far, this has been the most intense, there's been the most changes, there's been the most back and forth about it. It's also been the most enjoyable. I've got to know some new knitters really, really well, and I've just felt so supported by my test knitters. Every time I feel a bit like worried about it, or I start to feel guilty about making changes for it, they're all there reassuring me, making me feel better, and I feel really lucky that I've picked such a lovely group. And it's really great to see them getting to know each other as well, and I've noticed that they will like leave comments on each other's posts, and I've had some feedback already that they've really enjoyed the kind of community feel for this test knit, which means so much to me, because as a person who lives on the autistic spectrum, I find socializing and communicating and building relationships with people really, really difficult. So to be able to be part of that, and to, you know, be the person that's created that, like, does wonders for my soul. So we have already got a few finished soufflés, and a lot that are kind of getting towards finished point now, and we've got an absolute rainbow of soufflés. Like, I can't believe how different they all look in their different colours. We've got a few hot pink ones, we've got some beautiful neutral ones, we've just had a bright red one finished, and it's a bright red one where I recommend 2 to 4 inches positive ease for this pattern, but I also believe that ease is completely up to the knitter, and something that it can be really fun to play around with. Petite knit patterns, for example, can recommend huge amounts of ease, but that's always too much ease for me, so I tend to go down a size. So I feel like ease is subjective, and one of my test knitters has made one with only 1 inch positive ease, and it looks brilliant. It's like properly tight and cropped and looks great. I can't believe how different it looks and how versatile a pattern I have created. So it's going really, really well. However, because my original sample was made with short sleeves, but I also wanted to include instructions for long sleeves, I wrote the instructions for long sleeves without having knit a sample for myself. And it has come to light that for some of the sizes, the ease that I created, like the positive, because the sleeve's meant to be really poofy, in some of the sizes the amount of positive ease in the long sleeves is fine, but in some of the sizes there is way too much in the sleeves, particularly at the armpit. So I think I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board for the long sleeve version and muck about with that area a little bit. But that will mean I'll have to send it back to my editor to get the numbers checked, and then the test knitters for some of the sizes I've had to pause for now. I don't think overall it will affect the release date of the souffle, and in worst case scenario I will release it just the short sleeve version, and then I will update with the long sleeve version as soon as I can. But I will say of my long sleeve test knitters that only the yoke and 1 sleeve is required by the deadline, and I might even move the deadline if I have to. We will see. This is the nature of a test knit, and at first I was a bit like, oh no, I need to make a major change. I started to get a little bit flustered and stressed about it, but then I was like, no, it's not a step back, it is a step forward. This is the process. You can never fully predict how it's going to go, and as I mentioned before, fortunately, I've got a group of really supportive people who are just as excited to make this pattern the best it can be as I am. So that's where we are with the original mohair souffle. I am just waiting for the hopefully, fingers crossed, the final edit. I really suck at decreases. I really, when I'm doing increases, the maths just clicks in my head. I'm great with addition, great with multiplication, but when it comes to subtraction and division, my brain's just like, nope. So I have to do it visually. I literally use a knitting chart app to put a dot for every stitch, and then remove the stitches that I've decreased, and then count how many stitches I have left. And I'm getting better and quicker at it, but decreases are my downfall. So we've just got a little bit more to sort out on the sleeve decreases, but hopefully I've got it this time. We will see. But that should mean that the chunky souffle will be ready for test knitting, I really hope, in the next week or 2. We will see. So once I get the go ahead from my editor, I will do the test call over on my Instagram, where you can apply, and then hopefully we'll get to test that. I'm not sure what I was hoping to release them both at the same time, but the editing of the chunky souffle has taken a little longer than anticipated, so that might be a little bit after. And I'm not sure if releasing a super chunky sweater in April is the best idea, but then also not everybody lives in my hemisphere, so why not? And personally, I knit sweaters all year round. This is something I would like you to answer for me. Do you knit seasonally, or do you knit everything all year, basically? I do tend to do some, so I feel like I've only really had one summer of proper knitting, and I did make a summer project and I mucked about with a few summer designs last year, but they didn't really come to anything, and I'm looking forward to making more summer garments this year. But I also feel like I'm still going to be knitting sweaters throughout the year, because that's where most of my joy is. But I think I will probably be doing more socks and stuff in the warmer months, because it's not always possible to knit on 100% wool in the summer, because you just get sweaty and ew. So yeah, let me know if you knit seasonally or not, because I find it really interesting, because it's really hard to gauge. Is it a really bad idea to release a jumper pattern in hot months for my hemisphere? I just don't know. So we'll see. Let me know about that. So those are my, okay, no, I have 2 more technically finished objects, but they are not garments, but they are knitted. And I just thought I'd show you them because I think they're quite funny. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen a little reel I did in February. Just in time for Valentine's Day, I came up with a quick pattern to make a little knitted heart, and I made it in a reel and included all the instructions in the caption of the reel, and I will link the reel below so you can go and have a little look. But I made a knitted heart for Valentine's Day. So it is a moss stitch heart with an I-cord edge to make it look really nice and neat, and you can see that I've stuck it to a piece of card and I've put, "Will you be my Valentine?" What is better than a pun than a wool pun? I love it. So I made this for my husband for Valentine's Day. We're not like huge into the Valentine's Day, but we still do a card and chocolates and flowers and like a little token present, nothing major. So yeah, I thought that was a little bit of fun, and could also be really nice for anniversary cards. And I believe that the 7-year wedding anniversary is wool. So there you go. If you need to make a knitted heart, I'm your gal. And the other thing that I finished, oh, it just makes me laugh. Last weekend we had friends staying with us for the weekend. So naturally, the day running up to that, I was a massive ball of anxiety and stress because even though I love my friends and I know I will have a good time when it's happening, the idea of constantly socialising for 48 hours, yeah, it brings it out in me. So I found myself keeping my mind busy and my hands busy by finally sorting out my knitting supplies and yarn stash, because it had gotten ridiculous. The amount of yarn that I'd shoved into my shelf, it just kept falling out, and it was just such a mess, and all my needles were a mess. So I thought, I'm just gonna sort it all out. And whilst I was doing that, I realised I was looking at my scraps basically, and the majority of my scraps are mohair and fingering weight. Because when I do a jumper so far, I tend to get it pretty bang on with the yardage, and any kind of leftover scraps of like DK or Aran or something, like I'm gonna really struggle to find a use for them. So I've got like a scrap jar where I put all everything I trim off, any tiny little piece of yarn or like leftover ball gets put in that jar, and then you can send your scraps to Hedgehog Fibres so they can use it in their Tweedy yarn, so it's recycled and reused, and you get a discount voucher for Hedgehog Fibres. So that's what I'm doing with those. But the majority of my scraps are fingering weight and mohair, and I have got enough of that left to potentially use for something. And whilst I was also going through all my knitting supplies, I had a little look at all my knitting books. I haven't brought the book with me. Bear with one sec. That was good timing. The doorbell went whilst I was getting my book. I was looking through my books, and I've got a few knitting books, like stitch libraries and pattern books. I've never actually knit a pattern from any of the books. No, I don't think I have. And I came across this book, which my mum got me for a Christmas or a birthday, I can't quite remember. And it is the magical, a little bit out of breath from running downstairs. Magical Woodland Knits, and it is by Claire Garland, and it is full of the most stunning knitted animal designs. I haven't knit anything from this book yet because until recently neither of my kids were particularly into soft toys, but my daughter is starting to really enjoy playing with her cuddlies. So I just want to draw your attention to one of the patterns. It's on the cover, but I'm just trying to see if there's a better picture that I can show you. It is the roe deer fawn. Oh my gosh, it's stunning. And the thing that makes these animals so realistic, I think, is the way that Claire uses holding multiple strands together, marling different colours and using mohair. It just makes them look so real and so adorable. So I got this book because I really want to make this deer, but it's definitely a bigger project and I need to buy the yarn for it, and I want to wait until Penny's a little bit older so that I know that she'll appreciate it and look after it. But, oh, where's he gone? Ah, here he is, I'm sitting on him. I made a different creature from this book using some of the fingering and mohair scraps that I found whilst clearing out my stash. Please say hello to my little blue-tit friend. Oh my gosh, he's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever made, but I love him so much. I didn't have any safety eyes and I didn't want to buy any because I'd had to have bought like 1,000 of them. So I just did kind of like embroidered eyes. But you can see he's a little bit fluffy. He's got a lovely little tail. The back was supposed to be a little bit greener than it is here, but my yellow mohair was like super yellow. So yeah, he's been nicknamed Bill by some knitting friends, and he's a Cockney blue tip for some reason. But when I first gave it to P, she just went, "Oh, it's a bird, it's so cute." And I was like, that was worth every second. This was a fabulous little palette cleanser. I was a little bit garmented out the other day and I just wanted something new and quick that wasn't socks. So I made this little guy. He's also stuffed with the leftover Drops Wish from my chunky souffle. So literally 100% scrappy, 100% natural fibres, some superwash, but yeah. That's my little blue tip guy. There's also a pattern for a robin, which I did start to make for my son, but I didn't have a brown mohair, so I carried on without the mohair, but it just doesn't look the same. So I think next time I need to make my cart up to something like to get posted, I'll add a skein of brown mohair, or maybe I'll make myself a brown jumper. I would like to make a brown jumper, but yeah, the robin is going to be I'm going to make the robin at some point. My battery is flashing, so I'm just going to interrupt this one more time to change the battery, and then we will be on to whips. Okay, let's chill out and talk about some whips. The first whip I'm just going to show you briefly because I don't think it's going to last very long, and we've already talked about it a little bit. I have been working on a black version of my souffle in a non-mohair yarn because I wanted to see if I could offer an alternative to mohair, just because a lot of people can't wear mohair. So I've done the yoke and a little bit of body, and I've used Isaga Alpaca 1 in black, clearly, and I'm undecided how I feel about it. So on the body, or on my body at least, it looks really cool because it's such a dark yarn compared to my skin colour. The sheer really shows through, and we do have another test knitter doing a black one, so I'll get to see what a black one looks like finished. But I don't think I chose the right yarn, if I'm honest with you. Because it's 100% alpaca, it is like mega stretchy, and it feels a little dry, if I'm honest, and I just don't think I'm feeling it. And now that I have seen a zero ease souffle, I'm really tempted to rip this back and make one that's like tight, because I feel like that could be really fun and would be a better use of this super stretchy yarn. Because if I choose a size that is like my bust size or even a little smaller, then the stretch of the yarn will make it fit tight to my body. So yeah, I've got a feeling this is going to be ripped back, but I thought I'd show you it because I've been featuring it on my Instagram, and I thought, well, maybe some of you will be wondering what happened to it. That sounds very presumptuous. Yeah, presumptuous that people would be curious about what happened to that whip. So yeah, I just thought I'd give a little nod to that for now. My main whip at the moment, I'm not going to show to you because it is a new design and I'm not sure if it's a goer yet or not. And I'm going through some, if I was to hold it up and show it to you now, it wouldn't really make any sense anyway, because it's like pieces basically and half being worked, so it would be futile to show it to you. So that's my main whip at the moment, and my other whip I can't show you because it's a gift for someone who might be watching, so yeah, can't show you that. But my other whip is a juicy one and I've got plenty to talk about, so I'm going to show it to you. If you had seen my last podcast, I was showing my Augustine's number 21 dress, It's the big, oversized, poofy dress on 10mm needles with lace work on the sleeves and on the bottom of the skirt. And I had done the body and the sleeves and had started the skirt, but I'd massively halted on it because I wasn't sure if I wanted to finish it or not. And my main worries were, I cast it on at the beginning of December with the aim to wear it to 2 Christmas parties. However, both of those one of the Christmas parties didn't happen, and then I realised I didn't want to wear it to the other Christmas party because I would have got too hot in it and it would have been a bit inappropriate. And I kept going back and forth as to what I was going to do with this bloody dress. Should I make it into a peplum? Should I make it into a jumper? Should I make it into a short skirt? Just don't know. And in the end, I came to the thought that if I'm umming and ahhing about this this much, then it's probably not a garment I need or want that much. And honestly, the yarn was quite expensive, probably the most I've spent on yarn for a single garment, and it was going to take up a lot of space in my wardrobe. It wouldn't have fit in my drawers. I'd have to fold it up, and honestly, I didn't even know I was going to store the bloody thing. So I have completely ripped out my Augustine's number 21. I don't know if I'll knit that pattern in the future. I thought the pattern was really clever. I really, really enjoyed working on it, especially the shoulder and the yoke construction. So clever, nothing I'd ever done before, and it makes me excited to knit another Augustine's pattern because I think they're really cool, and hopefully I'd have the confidence to wear one day. But yeah, I'm glad I've tried it out because now I feel like I could confidently knit another one of her patterns. But the dress is no more, and instead we have, ta-da! This bad boy is the Petite Knit September sweater. As you can see, I've done the whole body already, and I've started a sleeve. However, this sleeve needs to be ripped out because I picked up the wrong needle size. I'm just going to double check this. I was knitting on this at knit night the other day, and I was like, why does my sleeve gauge look different to my body gauge? What's going on? I was measuring it. I was like doing row gauge, stitch gauge, like thinking about, am I just looser? Am I just tighter? Like, what's going on? And at no point did I think to check my needle size. And instead of picking up my 5mm, I picked up my 5.5mm. And you wouldn't think that 0.5 millimetre would make that much difference, but my God, it does. You can really see, well, I can anyway, the gauge of the sleeve. Let's go a bit closer. The gauge of the sleeve is looser than the gauge on the body, and I really like the gauge on the body. I think it's really nice. But yeah, this is an issue, and because this is brioche, this is probably about, at the time, maybe 2 hours worth of knitting, because I was quite distracted when I was doing it, wasn't really focusing on it. But yeah, there's a decent amount of knitting there that I need to rip back. So I don't know when I'm going to work on this again. I've skipped ahead there. Let's go back to the beginning. I cast this on about a month ago, a little more than a month ago, when I got the 2 positive lines of doom and had to self-isolate for 10 days. And though I was feeling poorly, I wasn't so poorly I couldn't knit, but I didn't have the brain space to work on my designs because I was tired and had a headache. So I thought, do you know what? I have wanted to knit the September sweater for ages, and my lovely friend Whitney suggested that I use my yarn for my Augustine's for the September, and she got it bang on the money. And the moment she mentioned it, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So I originally bought the Sandnes Garn Cos and was holding it with Drops mohair. I decided not to use the mohair for this project because I was making something that I was intending to be quite big and quite oversized on me. And because with brioche you're kind of using, I don't know if you are technically using double the amount of yarn, but you are consuming more yarn than you would if this was just stockinette. I thought with the mohair as well, it might end up too heavy. And like half fisherman's rib, brioche grows both width and lengthways. So I thought if I could make it as light as possible, then we might be able to keep the structure of the jumper intact for longer. And my friend Caroline also mentioned that she's knit something in Cos and it's really kept its shape, which was really encouraging. So I cast this on when I got poorly, and I knit what you see here apart from the sleeve in about a week and a half. I knit on it almost exclusively. I found the brioche rhythm really, really comforting and enjoyable and like interesting, but not like complicated, and I got into the rhythm of it, and it was just the perfect project at the perfect time. And then when I got better, I put it down, and I'm not quite sure why I put it down. I think I probably got distracted by other things. But then I felt the urge to pick it up again the other day and cast on the sleeve, and then, you know, this happened. So it's gone back in the naughty corner. I am absolutely loving this pattern. I bought this pattern years ago, before I knew anything about brioche, and went to start it and was like, hell no. So I like the fact that I've got to the point in my knitting journey, in my knitting life, career, that I can now pick up this pattern and knit it no problem. It's like, yes, you've definitely progressed. And the trickiest thing about this, I think, is not the fact that it's in brioche, it's the shoulder construction, but it's such an interesting shoulder construction. Obviously it's a paid for pattern, so I can't give you too many details, but you basically work the back panel, pick up for the shoulders, and then work the two sides of the front, and then you join it in the round from the armpit. So that does mean that you're working brioche flat for the yoke, so you brioche knit both sides, and then when you're working the body in the round, you have to brioche knit and then brioche purl. So I don't think you can tell, I don't think I've had any issues with the difference in gauge from working flat and in the round. And I've realised that, well, so far I'm one of those rare people, it would seem, that don't have a difference in gauge from flat and in the round, as I've seen on something that I'm working on at the moment, which is also work flat and then joined in the round. But yeah, so far this has gone well apart from the sleeve, and I'm really excited to have this finished. I've been struggling a bit with body image at the moment, and I'm definitely finding myself drawn to bigger, looser, chunkier things. I've been wearing my chunky souffle a lot because it's just like a big warm hug and I don't have to think about my body. So I feel like this is going to offer that to my wardrobe as well. And I also think that my husband will be able to wear this. Because it is technically oversized for me, it's going to be pretty much bang on for him. And I feel like this is a really, really gender neutral pattern, especially in this colour. My husband really likes wearing light neutral colours too. He really likes white, he really likes beige. And I feel like because it's such a straight, square shape, there's like little to no shaping. There isn't even any like shaping on the armhole. It's just straight, drop shoulder. I reckon he'll look really good in this too. And I'm like, well, if you're going to knit a garment, you might as well knit something that more than one person can wear, because then you really are saving money and saving the planet. So that is my September sweater by Petite Knit. Now I've talked about this a bit, I'm quite excited to get to work on it again. And it's majorly squishy. So I think when my current project is blocking and I can no longer work on it, I might come back to this one and then also spend some time on my other projects, which I can't show you. So that is my whips, kind of, and I only really showed you one whip, but as I said, the other whip can't show you yet because it's top secret, though I have hinted at it on my Instagram, so you might know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I have got one acquisition for you today, and it's a really special one, and I think you might find it quite interesting, but if acquisitions are not your thing, then please feel free to skip ahead to the nitty chat. I have been dying to get my hands on some Nutiden yarn for a long time. If you don't know anything about Nutiden, it is a very unique yarn that is made in Sweden, and it is an unspun yarn, so it's basically like a long old string of roving. It's quite similar to Plotalopi by Istex. However, this one is made way. It's made by one mill that they go around and they collect, and they get fibres from loads of different places, and they release yarn, I think it's quarterly or every couple of months or every month. I really don't know how often because I've only just got onto the programme. And to get the yarn, you either need to be one of their patrons on Patreon, and for that you get first access to the yarn. You still need to pay for the yarn, but you get first access to the yarn, and you get access to their podcast, and you also get, what I've now realised, loads of discounts on patterns that are for Nutiden, which is brilliant because it can be quite difficult to know what to do with it. So I missed the Patreon sign up and was gutted because one of the colours that they released in January, I was just like, oh my God, I want it so hard. And I posted it on my Instagram and was like, I really want this. I really hope I get a spot. And of course I missed the spot. And then you can still buy it if you're not a patron, but by that time you got to be like really on it because it sells out so quickly, and obviously it's completely unique. They don't make the same colorway twice and they don't use the same blends twice, so you got to buy everything you need that time and that's it. So yeah, there's usually a fight for it. So I got a message on Instagram from a lovely lady. I won't say her name because I don't have her permission to say her name, and I know she's not doing this for me to like, you know, promote her or anything. But she messaged me saying, I'm a patron, would you like me to order some for you and I'll get it sent to your address? And I was like, oh, that would be so lovely. Yes, please, thank you. Obviously I will pay for the yarn, I will send you the money, but if I can order it through you, that would be really lovely. What a kind offer. And then shortly after this, I went through a bit of a mental health journey. I discovered that I am autistic, I'm on the spectrum. I'm still in my process of being diagnosed, so I don't know quite where I sit yet. But whilst I was going through this initial process, I had a whirlwind few weeks. And I shared this process on my Instagram because I think it's important to talk about this kind of thing, and I was able to connect to lots of other like-minded people and felt so supported. And the wonderful lady who I've been speaking to spoke to me about this, and she said, I want to do something really nice for you, and she ordered me some Nutiden and refused to let me pay for it. So the biggest thank you in the world to you. You know who you are. She wouldn't let me pay her, so I sent her every single one of my patterns on Ravelry for her and her to share with her daughters. And I know that's like not the same as paying for the yarn, but that's all I could think to do to say thank you to her. And I should probably show you the yarn now I've explained where it comes from. Obviously it's not ad gifted, but it was a gift. So yeah, first of all I'll show you the colour, which was the one that got me really excited, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. So this is the Skagsra. I don't even know. I don't speak Swedish, but it comes in these paper bags with handwritten name on it, and it's 300 grams. And this just filled me with so much joy when I took it out of the packet. I love this. I just love that this is how it comes. And so here is the colour. What I need to do actually is go back and watch the podcast where she shows this yarn, because in her podcast she talks about where the names come from all the yarns, and the inspirations behind them, which is so lovely to know. You don't get that with commercial yarn, do you? So I'll go back and watch that and find out a little bit more. But it is this stunning dark green. Come on, there we go. And one of the amazing things about Nutiden, and I'm probably not going to be able to capture it on camera, it's coming up brighter. I might be blown out a little bit. The real yarn is definitely a little bit darker. And I'll see if I can get even closer for you. I think you can see there that it's not just one colour. There's quite a few different colours kind of blended together to create this just absolutely stunning colour. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. They say on average that Nutiden is 500 yards or meters per 100 grams, but you can't be entirely sure. So I'm not sure what I'm going to make with this yet. I'm tempted to hold it double for a vest, but I'm also keeping an eye on the patterns that are shared via the Patreon, because I might find something that's perfect for this. But I'm also not in a rush to use it straight away, because I just kind of want it to just be in my life in this form for as long as possible. Is that weird? I expected it to smell really sheepy, like Lopi is like, and Shetland yarn is like you're on a farm. But this just smells delightful. And it's also a lot softer than I thought it would be. You can't, like, obviously they're different fibres every time, so you might get ones that are more rustic, you might get ones that are softer, but this is just like a dream. So that's the first colour, and then I didn't know she was going to do this, but she also ordered some of another colour for me. And this one is a lot easier to pronounce. This one is snow. And again, I mean, I assume it's after snow, the weather, because it's white, but I will go back and watch the appropriate podcast to find out. And it is this brilliant, bright white. This is going to struggle, isn't it? It is this super bright white. There is a slight hint of yellowy cream to it, but overall it's pretty damn white. And it's just, again, just like the green one, really soft, smells beautiful. And I have actually made something with this already, but again, it's not quite ready to show you yet, but I should be able to show it you or tell you why I can't show it you by the next podcast. We'll see. Just gonna leave that little cryptic thing there so you come back and watch the next episode. I know. But basically, I loved working with this. I held the strands double because if you don't know about Nutiden yarn, as I mentioned, it is a unspun roving yarn. White is probably not the best to show you this with. It's gonna be better in the green, isn't it? See if I can find the end. Yep, there we go. So it is a, come on now. Well done, camera, you're doing very well today. It is an unspun roving yarn. So if you pull it, it goes bloop. And because we were talking about staple lengths the other day, obviously the staples are very short. So if you pull them close together, like this, it doesn't break. But if you pull them further apart, it breaks. And to make it stronger, you can either hold it double, which gives you so much more strength. You see, if I go a bit further apart, it does still break, but you get more strength with it if you hold it double or triple, or you can add mohair to it or another lace weight or anything really to give it more strength. So it's definitely different to work with than any other yarn, but I adjusted to it quite quickly. And even when it does break, all you have to do is lay the two ends back together, rub it until it feels nice and hot. You don't even have to make it wet. It joins back together again. Or you don't even need to rub it in some cases. You just lay it over itself and knit two bits together and carry on. Because once it's been knit up and it is bent like that, like you would in a knit stitch, again, it gains a lot more. So, you know, imagine it like that in like a knit stitch. It gains so much more strength. So, yes, it's definitely unique to work with. And I think it was Brogan from Woolly Witchcraft who was talking about it, or it could have been Rebecca from Crayabea. I'm imagining a Scottish accent, so it was one of those two ladies, maybe even both, either talking about Nutiden or Plotalopi, how pulling from the outside is much better than pulling from the inside, but you can also, if you're doing like two strands, wind it into a two-strand ball. And when I got to the end of one of the plates, I did wind it into a ball because it was becoming very difficult to work with. So you can, it's a pleasure to work with. It's different for sure, but it's nice different. It's nice to kind of mix things up a little bit and try different things within our craft. One of the comments I get so much, and one of the messages I get the most often, is from people saying, oh, I've only knit scarves or hats for years and years and years. I've been too scared to try a garment. I've been knitting with the same yarns, all this kind of thing. And it's like a real shame because you're missing out on so much, guys. Like, honestly, the worst thing that can happen is either you don't like it or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you just have to try again when you want to. So yeah, I'm all about the variety and trying something different. So I highly recommend, if you can't get your hand on Nutiden, Plotalopi is very, very similar and much more commercially available. There's one more little thing. Quite often when you order from Nutiden, they'll send you a little Brucey bonus. That was a very British reference, wasn't it? Either of, I think it's usually of a colour that's coming in the next update. So I got this little guy. I have no idea how much it weighs. And it is a kind of very dark, come on mate, come on. It is a reddish brownish. Again, it's very bright in here, so we are definitely blowing out a little bit, and it's much darker in real life. It's closer to this than it is to this, but it's this beautiful red plummy purple mix. This isn't normally a kind of colour I would wear. However, I made a hat for my husband in a colour in burnt sienna, Philcolana, Peruvian Highland Wool. That's a very similar colour to this. I made him a hat and I pinch it all the time. I really like this colour on my head. Such a weirdo. So with this random little bit, I don't know how much it weighs, but I can probably figure out how much yardage roughly I've got. I might make myself a hat because I keep stealing my husband's and I could do with my own. So yes, that was my very, very special acquisition. And I still, I'm still just blown away by the generosity of this world and this community. So thank you. I've just knocked the brightness down on my camera a little bit. I know that's not the word, exposure, aperture, one of those, don't know. Because it suddenly got quite bright, so I've knocked it down a little peg. So I am going to do a new little feature for you called New Release Spotlight. I feel like there should be like, pow, pow, pow. But I don't have the editing skills for that. So I have some new patterns that are newly released from small designers and growing designers, ready for you to enjoy. And the first is, what should we do first? The first I'm going to do is Aniela from Yelly's Wonders has released her pattern for her Folly Dolly sweater. I've mentioned this designer and this pattern before because it is gorgeous, and I was very close to applying for the test knit, but I was test knitting this at the time and I just didn't have the brain space for more than one test knit. But it is so it's, what would you class it as? It's technically lace, I think, but it's this sweater, and I think you can get different lengths, different sleeve lengths, different eases. It's got a different look if you have a tighter one or a looser one, and if you go on the hashtag on Instagram you can see all the testers versions, and they definitely have different types of ease in there. And it's just a really stunning design with a scalloped edge and this kind of like increase decrease kind of chevron vibe to it. And I just think it's fantastic. It looks so good. It's definitely on my list, and I am considering using my green Nutiden for it because it would be perfect for it. If you see the yarn that Aniela uses, I think it's a Hobie yarn, but it's got that kind of fluffy, blown, like single, like unspun vibe to it. So yes, I might use my Nutiden for that, but again, I need to check yardages and I might need to add mohair to it. But yes, the Folly Dolly has now been released, and when she released it, I instantly bought it. She was doing a discount at the time, I think, and she messaged me saying, what's your email address so I can send you a copy of the pattern? And I was like, too late, I've already bought it. So I cheekily asked her, well, instead of giving me a copy, how would you feel about giving a copy to my viewers on the old YouTube? And she said, yeah, of course, I'd love to. So if you would like to win yourself a digital copy of the Folly Dolly pattern by lovely Aniela, all you have to do is leave a comment on this post with the words Folly Dolly in it. It can literally just say Folly Dolly, or you can leave me a normal comment and just say in it, I'd like to win the Folly Dolly. That way I can filter through the comments and select a winner from those who actually want to win, because it might not be your cup of tea, might not be your vibe, but you might still want to leave a comment. So all you have to do is put the words Folly Dolly in a comment on this, and you have to be subscribed as well. And you also need to go and follow Aniela either here on YouTube, so go and subscribe to her channel, or follow her on Instagram, and you will get to win a copy of the pattern, and I will be checking. So there you go, that's your first hot new release. The second hot new release is a pair of socks by my dear friend Anna of House of Budlier. Now, if you know my designs, you'll know that I have a sock pattern called the Lovely Anna Socks, named after Anna, and she has released, this is her second sock pattern, and she's also done a hat, no, she's done 2 hat patterns, and this is her first sock pattern, and they are called the Wonderwall sock, and they're this really cool graphic, like colourful sock pattern with different leg lengths. They are like totally up my street. If you've seen my sock designs, then they are of a similar nature, and if you go back and look through her test knitters pictures, you get really different vibes with the different colours that you choose. The original one she uses a white background and colours on top, but there is one of the test knitter that I think did a pink background, and it completely changes the way the colour work looks. So a really cool pattern for you there. Wonderwall socks is now available, and Anna has also offered you guys a discount, not just on the Wonderwall socks, but on her other patterns, using the code Penrose Knits 30, you can get 30%. I know, massive discount, you are spoiled. 30% off any of Anna's patterns on Ravelry, and I will of course link them below. So thank you, Anna, and congratulations on your first sock pattern release. I'm so proud of you. Anna is also in the run-up to releasing some free patterns, and she's got another test call coming soon. So if you want to keep on top of this hot new designer, then please go and have a follow of her over on Instagram. And then the final hot new release I want to share with you had literally just been released when I filmed the last podcast, but obviously there was a delay in that, and that is the Crescendo sweater and Crescendo blouse by wonderful Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. The Knit Pearl Girl of Instagram fame has just hit 50k. Bravo, so proud of you. And she is the designer of the very famous Aosta sweater. I think most people find the Knit Pearl Girl via the Aosta sweater. I've actually just bought myself a copy of the Aosta sweater. She did a 50k pattern sale, so I bought that, and I bought her Copenhagen hood as well because I really need a hood to go with my favourite coat. But yes, I bought the Aosta, and you can get the Aosta in loads of different like gauges and yarns, and she's done a similar thing with the Crescendo. So I think the Crescendo started off as the blouse, and it's, I think, fingering and mohair, quite a similar gauge to this actually, and it's got beautiful lacework yoke that's kind of like points that increase in size as you go down the yoke, hence Crescendo. And she's also done a version in, I think it's chunky weight, 6mm needles, in a sweater version. So again, it's the same design but reimagined in a few different ways. Sophie is so clever at this. She does this with quite a lot of her designs. There'll always be a cardigan version and a different weights and mohair version. She's just, her mind like astounds me. She's so clever with her designing, and she did 3 test calls in one day the other day, and I'm like, wow, you are a superwoman. And Sophie is really hoping to, like me, turn the Knit Pearl Girl into a full-time thing, so I would love it if you go and support her patterns. Sophie, I don't think there's a pattern sale at the moment because she's just in the 50k thing, but she does discounts on her patterns all the time, and she does brilliant competitions as well and giveaways, so go and check her out. Link will be below. So that is all the patterns I've got for you today. Got 2 more things to talk about. I was contacted a couple of months ago by Dana from Yellow Farmhouse podcast and Instagram, and she has been putting together a playlist for children and baby knitting content, and she asked me if I'd provide a video, and at the time I couldn't film a video for it exclusively, but I did say I would more than happily add my Everything I Knit for My Children video into that playlist. So I just wanted to let you guys know about it. If you are expecting a little one, if you've got friends who are expecting a little one, if you want a cheeky little palette cleanser, because oh my god, knitting things for babies, it's so satisfying because they knit up so quickly, please go and check out this playlist, which has got one of my videos in it, and I will link it below. And thank you so much to Dana for asking me to contribute. I feel honoured. It's a fantastic little playlist, and I've noticed that my Everything I Knit for My Children video has gone up in the rankings in my views, and as have my subscribers, so I'm assuming some of you have come from there, so hello and welcome. And any of you who have not seen that playlist yet, please feel free to check it out. And finally, I've got a podcast suggestion for you. It's been ages since I've suggested a podcast, and I think that's because I'd basically like reached my capacity of content that I had the time to consume, and I found plenty of podcasts that I really enjoyed watching. And then for a little while, I kind of, after Vlogmas, I took a step back from watching podcasts, and I haven't watched every single one of the ones I subscribe to at the minute, just because I was a little bit overwhelmed content-wise. But more recently, I've got back into watching them, and the other day I spent a whole day watching podcasts whilst knitting, whilst I was recovering from a weekend of socialising, and it really got me back into it. And it also so happened that a channel I've been watching for a little while has recently created their first podcast. Now, the channel I'm going to mention you is the lovely Kalila or Kali from the KopyKali YouTube channel. I first found Kali on Instagram, and it was one of those where I'm like, I can't remember how I found her, But I really enjoy her content, and she's recently transitioned from knitting with mainly acrylic to wool, and watching that tradition has been really interesting. But she's also got a lot of knowledge and has made a lot of projects with things like Lion Brand Wool Ease. So if you are someone that prefers to knit with acrylic, she's got loads of inspiration for you over there. She also does a lot of crochet, which I find really interesting. I mentioned this before, I'm not a natural crocheter, but I still find it super interesting. And I know there's a crochet blanket in me somewhere, just I've got to do it one day. So normally Kali makes knitting vlog content, and I think this is why I was gravitating towards her channel, because as I have also been entering the world of knitting vlogging, it's been really nice to watch other knitting vlog content. So I found myself, even when I was a little bit overwhelmed for a podcast, I felt like I had the capacity to just, you know, enjoy watching someone going through their day and doing a bit of knitting, because it's a little bit less intense. So if you enjoy my knitting vlogs, then you will definitely enjoy Kali's knitting vlogs too. And literally like 2 days ago, I think, she did her first official podcast. She has done some more formal sit down videos, but not an official podcast like this one, where you go through all your different projects, your whips, your intentions, all that kind of stuff. And she did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed watching her first episode. So I highly recommend you go and check out Kali's channel, say hello, tell her I sent you, and I hope you enjoy her content, because I certainly did. So that's all the admin, that's all my projects. I sometimes do a little bit of nitty chat, but I think like most people, my mind has been very preoccupied recently, so I'm not sure I've got much more to go into. As I've touched on, I've been struggling a little bit with my mental health, so I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you to look after yourselves. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Do what you need to do to protect your mind, whether that's cancelling plans, whether that's ignoring the washing for a few days. Just make sure you're looking out for yourself right now, because you can't help anybody else unless you've helped yourself. And I think that brings us naturally to the end. So thank you so much for joining me. I think I really needed this today, and I hope it brought you some relief. And I really would enjoy it if you joined me next time. Or I'd really like it if you joined me next time. We're getting rambly. I'm going to wind it up. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.